People say, I'm a coach, I need to start writing blog posts. I say, no, you don't. You need to start finding clients. And possibly writing blog posts is something that's going to work and work very effectively, but you don't have to do that. In fact, there are loads of really efficient ways that don't include ever writing a word or creating a video or doing anything like that. You have to do something, but you don't necessarily have to create an endless publishing arm. Man, I see people spending more time on their content than they spend with their clients.
MK, from one MK to another, halfway across the world. It is good to see you again.
Back once again. I'm so thrilled to get to hang out with you, Mike. Every time we get to hang out, I get a little frisson of excitement in my loins.
In your loins. Okay. Wow. All right. Right off the bat, that's where we're going, folks. Of course, my good buddy Matthew Kimberley is here, and I had to have him back on the show because you just launched a pretty badass podcast called Marketing for Coaches. We have so many coaches who listen to the show. You can see what's happening. All these strategic alliances are coming together, and we're going to take over the world. So tell us, Marketing for Coaches, is it true coaches don't know how to market themselves?
I think coaches spend far too much time marketing themselves without a real understanding of what marketing should do. Possibly, put yourself solid. We say marketing doesn't get you clients, and that's always been true. Marketing is awareness. When done correctly, it's lead gen, but lead gen isn't client conversion either. There's the whole process that goes beyond, and it's got to be congruent from when you throw your net out to when you pull your net back in. Lots of people are throwing chump into the sea and then forgetting to reel it back in. And others just have a complete incongruency. They're fishing in the wrong place, or they're fishing with resources that they don't actually have access to. And now 2020 and the last 5 years or so, we've seen kind of follower building or vanity metrics as a shorthand for marketing, which is very problematic. I'd much rather, if I was a coach with a typical coach's resources, at least when they get started, I would much rather go to a well-populated pond with a good quality fishing rod than go out to sea on a trawler that I can't afford, without a crew, without the ability to throw the net very far, without the ability to pull the net back in. And so lots of people are now conflating things like vanity metrics with client getting. So the focus of Marketing for Coaches is actually about how marketing is the least of your problems. But it was a great URL.
Well, indeed. For the rest of us who are not as smart and well-versed in vocabulary as Matthew, let me just translate. I'm just kidding. No, we got intelligent people here. I agree. Look, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm not a coach. I'm primarily not a coach. I am a marketer who happens to coach.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of folks kind of get crossed up, because if I was purely a coach and that's all I wanted to do, I did not want to create content. I'm a content creator who happens to coach. I will readily admit that to anybody. And so for me, when I tell people, well, this is how I've marketed my business, and this is why I have quote unquote coaching clients, which I don't really. I have mastermind members. I have folks who are members in programs. I don't do very much one-on-one coaching. Do you differentiate between those things like I do in my head, or do you see it differently?
We see a number of things, Mike. We see that marketers who are very good at marketing turn to coaching because you don't need inventory. It's it's infinitely scalable. And that's one of the reasons why those who discuss these things, and I think discussing it is frankly a waste of time. Do we really have the right to call ourselves coaches? Shouldn't you call yourself something else? A lot of marketers are coaches. Some of the best coaches I know are not very good marketers. And some of the best coaches I know are not very successful coaches. And some of the best coaches who are not very good marketers are also very successful coaches. So there's no correlation necessarily between, coaching has been around since probably, I don't know, probably as a job title, as a profession outside of the athletic industry, probably for 40 years, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe 30 years, something like that sounds about right. It probably would have been a novelty in the early 80s if the New York Times ran a a weekend supplement that talked about a coach to executives, people have said, well, what on earth is this person doing? That sounds fancy, right? So that's probably a relatively new thing. But the other problem I see is that coaches are conflating their jobs. They think now in 2020, they say, because I have a coaching business, I also need to have a publishing business. And that's not true. So you say you're basically a publishing company. You're basically you create written material. You're a content creator. I see absolutely no reason for a coach to be a content creator. I see no reason for a coach to be a publisher. It is a marketing strategy you might choose to take on board, but there's absolutely no necessary correlation between running a publishing arm of your company and running a coaching company. That's one of my, one of the small hills that I will die on. People say, I'm a coach, I need to start writing blog posts. I say, no, you don't. You need to start finding clients, and possibly writing blog posts is something that's going to work and work very effectively, but you don't have to do that. In fact, there are loads of really efficient ways that don't include ever writing a word or creating a video or doing anything like that. You have to do something, but you don't necessarily have to create an endless publishing arm. Man, I see people spending more time on their content than they spend with their clients.
Yes. That's why I don't call myself a coach.
Right.
I spend more time marketing than I do the actual deliverables of what people hire me to do. Now, I'm a freelancer in a lot of ways too. Still, I'll take clients. But when I say clients, I tell my folks, my clients are asking me to create marketing deliverables or marketing strategy. I am not coaching in the sense that you said executive coaching or life coaching or even business coaching to some degree. Maybe I'll do that. I'm just advising people. So I want to hear this because I think this is a really, honestly, folks, I'm going to tell you, this is the most passionate I've seen Matthew, except for when we were discussing what's better in an old fashioned. So to get him riled up, this is good. Okay. So what do they need to do? If they don't need to create a publishing arm to their business, what do you advise they do? How do they get clients?
Well, we've got certain currencies available to us. Any business, including a one-person business, has currency, and they are in different pots, right? So you've got cash. You have cash which is available to you, and this is the MBA way. If you do an MBA course, they'll say you have a marketing budget. Your marketing budget is made up of dollars, and you're going to get the necessary people around you to show you how to spend those dollars and convert those into paying clients. And your goal will be to purchase a customer at the lowest possible price and focus a lot of your energy and effort on turning the average purchase value or the lifetime customer value to your advantage. That's option number one. When you're getting started, and because the barriers to entry in a coaching profession are very low, often money isn't something that you have in abundance, right? But what you do have is time. So this is where content looks like time and effort. This is where content becomes more attractive, right? I can't afford the marketing spend. I can't afford to get a billboard. I can't afford to take out ads on Craigslist. I can't afford, which is, you might laugh, but yeah, I've seen it done very, very well. When you got your target market right.
1000%.
You're an education coach for teenagers, door-to-door leafleting and local small ads is a phenomenal. If you're any coach apart from a business coach, local small ads work phenomenally well. A professional trainer, anything like that. Anyway, you have time and you have effort, and that's typically where people go, right, I'm going to use my time, I'm going to use my effort to create content, and then you get stuck on the idea that you have to be everywhere. Now, of course, there are times when it is wise to be everywhere, but typically, if you're not everywhere, it doesn't make sense that you're marketing everywhere either, because that is exhausting. Broadly speaking, yes, there's software available that helps us duplicate ourselves and so on and so forth. But that's option number two. So you're going to create social media material, you're going to create YouTube videos, you're going to create Facebook communities of prospects. And the third currency, which I think has, in my experience as a jobbing coach coming on to 12 years of doing this for a living now, which has been far more valuable than anything else, has been, oh, and by the way, time and currency, just leave you on a cliffhanger there. Time and effort also goes into speaking gigs and things like that, traveling, speaking, going to networking events. The currency, which is the single most valuable thing for me and has been true for all of my clients who followed the system that I evangelize about, which is Book Yourself Solid, it's been far more valuable than money. It's been far more valuable in time and effort. And it has made the amount of money I have and the amount of time and effort I have go much further, has been other people. The value of your relationships is of critical value. And if we were to talk about that from a business development point of view, what does that mean? That means that if I want to promote a new service, I can come on my friend Mike's podcast. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I don't have a relationship with Mike, I can't do that. If I want to promote a new service or an existing service and my buddy runs a conference, I can get on the stage that I wouldn't otherwise even get on stage at because I didn't have a pre-existing relationship. If I want to grow my list by 1,000 people overnight, I can speak to any one of my friends in my Rolodex because they will happily do a JV partnership with me where I will spend time and money after. I'll spend money after, so it's not the cheapest way to buy a client, but it's certainly the best from a cash flow point of view. I'll give you the money after I've been paid. But if I don't have the pre-existing relationship with them, that doesn't happen. So to invest heartily and aggressively in your relationships, which also leads to referrals, which also leads to incentivized word of mouth. You have an unpaid sales force and an unpaid negotiation force and an unpaid marketing department working on your behalf when you invest very heavily in relationships. And it doesn't happen overnight, but you can build that first important relationship overnight by being in the right place, by reaching out to the right person. And Mike, it gets easier and easier the more you do it, because these concentric pools of relatedness start to intersect and oversect and say, am I going to accept this friend request if we're going to use Facebook parlance? Say, well, we do have 65 people in common. I hold all these people in high esteem. I'm going to risk it. Or we were discussing before we went live. You said there's somebody you should meet. I was like, oh, fantastic. And it looks like that's going to be a fantastic rate, but it would never happen. And all of a sudden it gets easier and easier and easier. So I think, if you were dumped somewhere with no contacts, no cash, and no resources other than your ability to coach, I'd hit the shopping mall and I'd cold pitch people. I'd say, hey, you run a small business? Good. Give me an hour of your time and I'll try and find you 5 money makers. But failing that, I'd be looking to forge strategic relationships overnight.
I know people are going to say, someone's going to listen to this and think, well, where do I start though? And I don't know that I've ever told this story on the podcast. I know I've never told you about it. When I started my marketing, and again, I'm just going to say coaching business for the sake of our conversation, but when I was looking to, start my business and be on my own, whether as a freelancer, whatever it was, content creator, all those things, my first client ever was a guy who played drums at a conference where I played music, and we just kind of connected. Years later, like 5 years later, he saw that I had put up a blog and said I was a marketing consultant. And he found me, started reading. I didn't have any content. I had one page, like, hi, my name is Mike Kim. It was the lamest sales letter ever. And he knew a lady who I helped, with some stuff. And we were mutual friends, and he was my first paying client. A whopping $500, Matthew, for like a 90-day contract. I mean, I charge people $500 for 20 minutes of my time now. But he was my first client, and he was so happy. He referred me to somebody he was a wedding photographer. So he referred me to a non-competitor, a wedding videographer, who I promptly doubled the fee for. Right. And I was able to do the work in half the time because I kept getting better and better and better. And that's all that happened. So you want to talk about, back in my days when I was doing religious music, church music, I met that guy. He was my first ever client. Yeah. So for people to say I have zero network, that's not really true. That's not really true. I love what you said about networks and relationships. We built a relationship. We met through Todd and through other folks, Todd Herman. What do you say about professional networks or investing in professional networks? Waste of time, or is it more, it depends? Where are you seeing that with a lot of your clients and your
I think
students?
it depends. I really
Yeah.
think it's a hard, it
Mm-hmm.
depends. I think a lot of the organization, let's take BNI as an example. In Europe and I believe North America, and, I think BNI is anything that propagates business networking or helps people grow their business is a good thing. Let me be quite clear. Even if I have criticisms of the way that it operates, I'm thrilled that it exists because it helps people. But part of the problem with BNI, I find organizations like that, is that if they're set up specifically as a referral network, I would rather go the extra mile. And if I'm going to refer my friends and my clients to other service professionals, I want to know that I'm referring them because they're the best and not because they belong to the same chapter as me, not because they're just in the same zip code. That's my primary problem with BNI. I think we're doing our referees a disservice if we say, hey, work with Bob's in printing and he's in my network. Now, sometimes for the low stakes stuff, doesn't matter. It's just really useful to have a connect, right? I need someone to replace a window in a rental property I have. I don't care who replaces it. It's one window, it's done and done. But if we're talking about a mortgage broker or a consultant or somebody to deal with a big contract, then I think we owe it to our friends that we refer the best rather than I happen to be in a group with some guy. That said, maybe the guy in the group is really the best for you. I have found that by going to the right events, you can forge fantastic relationships. And there's something about the value of the scale of relationship. When I talk about networking, it's not cold pitching prospects. I'm not walking up to people and saying, hey, I'm a business coach. Tell me about your business. I'm actually looking for people who can get me access to my prospects, looking one step higher. It's like if I go you're in Florida at the moment, if I come to Florida and I want to speak to dentists, I'm not going door to door at dental surgeries and saying, hi, do you want to be my friend? I'm going to the president of the Floridian Dental Association because that is the lady who can get me into their newsletter, onto their stage, into their intranet, can make a warm introduction to the dentists. It's the conference organizers, it's the journalists, it's the PR people who can explode you or have a step up the ladder and can give you a leg up. That's a bit different from pure prospecting. I mean, we have to be prospecting as well, but I think strategic relationship building, we should think one step above prospecting, which is how can I supercharge my prospecting with help from others? So I've been to a couple of events. I met Todd Herman through Taki Moore. So I was a paid member of Taki's community. And Todd was at the same time, and I was addressing this group of people. And I said, I was talking about how to manage relationships. And I said, look, if you wanted, I was probably a very similar version to this conversation. And I said, if you wanted to get the chairman, the head of HR at Goldman Sachs on the phone, how would you go about it? And we talked a little. I was thinking we were going to have a conversation about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'm going to find somebody who has a friend who works at Goldman Sachs who's then going to get me an in. And somebody from the back of the room just piped up and said, oh, I'd ask Todd. And Todd's like, yeah, I know these people. So I got to know Todd, and then what did I do? And then I became useful to him in a meaningful way. I was either going to, depending on what I was good at, I was either going to give him some sweat equity, or I was going to perhaps do him some favors, or in our particular instance, I emailed for him. I had something that I could do for him, and he recognized me because I became a source of revenue, and we started a relationship, and he introduced me to many people, including you. And I met Taki because I paid for access to him. I met Michael Port, who's probably been one of the most pivotal relationships in my career, if I'm to join the dots going backwards. In a similar way, I paid for access to Michael. I bought his book. I wrote to him to let him know that I liked it. We started a conversation. He said, I have a certified coach program. I said, I'm interested. And then I kept showing up. And now I own his company. Now I run his company. So And then when you're the right-hand man to Michael Port, who's a New York Times bestseller and whose book has sold millions of copies and who is a known name, when you make cold approaches, hey, dude, Matthew from Book Yourself Solid, Michael and I were discussing it. All of a sudden, people pay attention, right?
Work up the ears.
But before that, I was nobody. I was an unhappy recruiter in Brussels, Belgium, with a library of self-help books.
I think there's a lot to be said about what you just said there. The biggest transformation for me was joining a mastermind group.
Yeah.
Nowadays, mastermind group, I mean, people all do them very differently. For me, the mastermind group, when I joined a mastermind group a few months before I quit my corporate job, and I didn't have the money for the group. It was $1,000 a month. This was a stretch. And when I left my job, I finally made the leap. All of a sudden, in that first month, all the folks in my mastermind knew I had made the leap. They sent me $15,000 worth of work. Now, on one hand, I was really happy, and the other hand, I was really ticked off. I was like, "What the heck, guys?" Because we known each other for a little while. I was like, "What the heck? Why didn't you send me this work early? I could have quit 4 months ago." And they just they said, "We thought you were too busy. You were running this company and doing the marketing for this company." And it was, but they were there. And when I saw that, I realized now, like you said, tracing the dots backwards, these networks or this access, it wasn't just for my personal or professional development, like in skills or mindset or anything. It was an investment, I realized, in my professional network. Mm-hmm. And that I would rather be one of 20 people than one of 2,000 or 20,000. And that's a principle I don't think many coaches understand. My life has been built like that. And some folks out there will say, "Well, I'm going to be a Lone Ranger. I don't need anybody." Well, good luck.
Yeah. Good
luck. That's how you get picked off. Even wolves travel in packs. Yeah. And they can point to a big name like, John Maxwell, I've done work with. Donald Miller, I've done work for him. Even these guys will tell you they didn't build this on their own.
Yep.
Donald Miller's business grew in large part because of Dave Ramsey. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of his first story brand clients were Dave Ramsey's group because he put him on a stage. John Maxwell, same deal. Same deal. So yeah, man, get over it. If you're listening right now, get over it. You've got to align yourself strategically with people.
Absolutely right. And you might say, you might be listening to this saying, well, I've done all of that, or I've paid to play and I've been to the events and I've sat in the rooms, but I'm not getting the referrals or people aren't passing business to me. And typically, if you're a coach, it's because you're not good enough or remarkable enough. Right? And typically that can be fixed with Business 101, which is a very clear single big result for a very clearly defined target market. I'm an e-commerce professional who helps people reduce churn with onboarding emails that rock. I know just the person. I help people live their best life. Well, great. I'll see you at the next Tony Robbins event. I help people step into their greatness. Fantastic. If you've got the resources, if you've got the marketing budget, if you've got the venture capital, if you've got the platform, if you've got the audience, you can help people live their best life. But you're not going to be very referable if you haven't got the platform and the billboards and the advertising budget. Instead, we're going to be very good at what we do, but very easy to refer because we do something very specific for a very specific person. That is the pivot point upon which everything in business settles. This is what an MBA will teach. It's the first thing the MBA teaches you: message to or product to market match. Identify the product, identify the market. If you haven't got that, you ain't got a business. And coaches, many of you ain't got a business. You've just got a business card that says coach.
Yes, thank you. And again, I don't say that denigrating anybody, because likewise, I work with a lot of folks who are trying to, get out of a day job. They don't know who they are yet. So I get that where they're at, but I'm hard on people from a marketing standpoint because I'm a marketer. I'm like, if you're a coach, you tell me you're a coach, you better either save me time, save me money, or save me from learning a skill, or make me money, give me more time, or give me a skill. the whole idea of I'm a clarity coach. I help people attain work-life balance. I can't hold the cup of work-life balance. I don't know what I even get when I give you my credit card. Clarity comes later if you're a life coach and whatnot, but it's like, give me the thing you do. And even a lot of freelancers who I work with, they'll say, well, Mike, I'm a copywriter. You're a brilliant copywriter. You know this. I'm a copywriter. I don't just say, well, I'll refer people to you. What kind of copy do you write? Do you write emails? If not, what do you do? Blog posts? Launches? Facebook ads? Magazine covers? What do you do? Even
Which
that's
industry?
Not enough. Yeah, which industry?
Yeah.
Anyone who will pay me money. That doesn't work. That does not work. It's better to start, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just better to start in a market that pays, even if you don't like it. You don't have to stay there forever. Just
choosing the target market is where people get most stuck. Book Yourself Solid is a 16 module. There's 16 pieces in Book Yourself Solid, and each one of those has multiple sub pieces. But it's a systematic way from going from idea to business that is, systematically getting clients. And the second stepping stone is target market. And we explain the who and the why and the what, and people will spend unassisted weeks or months or even longer on making the choice. I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday who's been through one of our programs, says, I'm still a bit stuck on choosing a target market. And I totally get it, because you don't want to exclude people. But what I always tell people in this instance, a couple of things. One, you're not saying I'm not going to work with anybody. What you're going to say is, the clue is in the name. I'm going to target my marketing to a specific group of people. That's it.
I love that.
So if you've got limited resources, great. If you've got billions and billions of dollars, you can target it to the population of the United States. But if you've only got a few grand a month and the ability to, supply the service that you're selling, then you're probably going to target it to a very, very, very different demographic. And they're going to want elections on my mind. And they're going to want to see that you're relevant to them, which is another advantage of choosing a target market. So you can say, I help copywriters write faster so they can get paid more quickly. Okay, you help copywriters. So if you talk about the industry, they can go, that's me. But it tells you where to show up. And the other thing I tell them is, you don't have to marry them. You don't even have to announce it. You can say, I help workers get more efficient. But if I see that you're showing up at my copywriting convention, in my copywriting newsletters, in my copywriting echo chambers, and you're using specific case studies or relevant examples from the world of copywriting, even though you've never announced that you only work with copywriters, I know, because you're targeting your marketing to copywriters, that you're relevant for me. So you only have to do it for 6 months, 9 months. Prove to me that it doesn't work, right? But you got to try everything. All marketing is testing of hypotheses. And the target market can be one of those hypotheses. My hypothesis is that copywriters are going to be a great target market for the first 9 months of my new business. Okay, let's test that hypothesis. Let's try and prove it true.
That's what I did. Another story. You just reminding me of those days. I started this podcast. You'll laugh at this because we have the same kind of sense of humor. I started a podcast. This is when I was working full time at my job. I was the CM of the company, and I brilliantly decided to launch a podcast titled "Up and to the Right." You guys should see Matthew's face here. It's like our minds are going places, and I was like, it's a profit loss sheet, right? The arrow goes up and to the right, means you're making more money over time. This is in the bag. Okay. This is in the bag, right? I'm like, this is easy. I'm going to kill it on this show. Small business owners are going to listen to the podcast. No one knew what the heck that meant. Small business owners do not look at their profit loss sheets. To be honest, they're so busy working in their business. And then they weren't listening to my podcast because they're so busy running their business. And who was listening to my podcast were people who were in the blogging communities that I had joined as a solopreneur trying to launch. And they're like, oh, this guy, Mike, we know him from some forums. Let's listen to his podcast. So nobody, not even my mother, listened to my podcast for the first 22 episodes.
Well, you know,
which is 5 months.
My
5 months of work.
Just because we teach these things doesn't mean we necessarily do them. My podcast, How to Get a Grip, where I interviewed my friends and talked about cool stuff. Turns out it was great if you wanted to listen to a chat show, but in terms of lead gen, marketing for coaches in the 2 months that it has been alive, considerably more useful as a lead gen tool than How to Get a Grip was for 2 years.
Well, then and here's the thing. I ran the podcast for 5 months, and it's not a waste because I got better at podcasting.
For sure.
It's the first time I've ever done it. But dude, when I changed it to Brand You, because I was like, everyone who's listening to my show and commenting on it is listening to it despite the title.
Right.
When I changed to Brand You, I mean, within 6 months, it was the top in iTunes. If you Googled if you put in the search personal branding in iTunes, it was the number one show. And now, 6-7 years later, here you and I are, and that's the title of the book. I'm writing, and it's just okay. That's who it is. So, yeah, folks, look, Book Yourself Solid. One of the first books I read when I got into my business. Pick it up. Listen to Marketing for Coaches, the podcast. I'm on it. Yay!
You are one of the only other voices.
There you go. And follow Matthew and follow his work. Is that the right place? Marketingforcoaches.com.
Marketingforcoaches.com.
Marketingforcoaches.com is the place to be.
Brilliant.
Brother, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.